Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Let's get the stream going. All right. I've got two fantastic guests today to talk about two fantastic cards. So I think without really much further ado, I want to introduce Eli and Seb. Eli, would you like to introduce yourself a little first? Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I even went to switch this and then didn't. I'm going to have you do your intro all over again because one person here, me, is an idiot. Now you should be good to go through, though.
Should I start talking?
Yeah, you should be all set. Okay. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Eli. I use he or she pronouns. I sometimes go by Shishu. It's an old internet handle I use on JNet and like Netrunner DB. I've been playing for quite a long time, almost a decade. I started right after Creation Control came out, but before Opening Moves came out. So I've been through many spoiler seasons before. This one is probably the most fun.
You predate me by quite a few years at that point, then.
Yeah, we used to get our spoilers from draft packs.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that. Wow. Or I say I forgot hearing stories about that. I should really say. And Seb, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hey, I'm Seb, or usually Seabass on the internet. I've only been playing for like a year and a half now. It's definitely post System Gateway. Yeah, I play out of like Connecticut, and just been obsessed with the game for like since I started playing basically.
Very cool. I guess I'm gonna ask because I'm kind of curious. What format or formats do you play the most?
I'm mostly in standard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mostly play standard. I've been trying to get into Eternal, but like it seems like there's a big, I don't know. I did play Eternal when it first like came out. Like I played in the first Eternal tournament, but like with the point system and like it seems like it's very high level and like I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot. Zeroth Maxima is asking if you're the amazing Ed Kim cosplay, Eli.
Yes, I am. I should have mentioned that too. I am noted Edward Kim enthusiast.
A real fan of one of the most villainous runners, I would say.
Well, I would say I'm very into disability justice, so Edward Kim has always been a favorite of mine. I think that costume was from like 3 years ago. I think I have a hammer around somewhere. But like I don't even know where that is, that image, but yeah. That was a fun costume. I went into work in that, and that was like explaining to people what my costume was a very amusing time.
That's so great. That is a lot more boldness than I would have, even though there are probably Netrunner characters I could conceivably dress up as for work. I feel like I've even told them like, oh, I do like a stream for like a game I play, but like I feel like if I showed up in costume, it would just be a line I couldn't cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we should talk about the cards. We're going to start with probably, I think what everyone agrees is the less exciting, but possibly more relevant card. More relevant to trying to win worlds. Maybe not more relevant to having a good time playing Netrunner. But this card is Hippocampic Mechanocytes. It is a 0 cost hardware, cybernetic. It is 2 influence and shaper. It says when you install this hardware, place 2 power counters on it and suffer 1 meat damage. You get +1 maximum hand size for each hosted power counter. And the flavor text is, to outsiders, it is ironic that no one at Ampere can remember who invented these little fellows. Within the company, this is considered normal.
So
I forget, actually, where did we get this card from? I should have looked this. I have forgotten completely.
This was also on the
yeah, this was.
Oh, this was okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
These were both part of the post. I forgot. Yes, of course it was. Sorry, but I should let one of the two of you come forward with a take on this card.
I think this is an obvious include with all of the cybernetics that give you core damage, and then just the fact that in order for Issa to be anywhere near like viable, there has to be a certain amount of options for hand size, especially like with all the like Thule cards and all the new core damage cards. I think it's really important for there to be more hand size things. I will say very notably that it's a 0 cost card, which means it's vulnerable to best defense. But yeah, it's pretty well designed.
Yeah, it's pretty much covers it. Like it's pretty good. I like that you can charge it. I'm not sure what kind of wild combo you can get in Shaper if you want to have like infinite hand size, but
I mean, I
that'll
think the
be
most
fun.
obvious one is probably like, oh, I can just hold all my deep dives, but still keep playing.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like, oh, if I'm holding 2 deep dive in my hand, it's often like, oh, I really only have 3 cards in my hand, and maybe one of them's a breaker I want to install later and stuff like that. So no,
Right.
I think it's not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a combo enabler, but it's also I guess it works with Tremolo too, since it is
Mm.
like a cybernetic, so it's like I said, like there's all the ones that do damage and core damage and stuff, so it's like I think it's like a good option as, just a generically good cybernetic to work with that.
Yeah. And it obviously combos with the was it Basilar, the click gaining one? So it's just you just back up to full max hand size. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah, and I
I
mean, oh, it's gonna you have Severinus. I tried to make that card work once. It's very uh, testy kind of card. I guess you could do Severinus with
you
like
you definitely could.
hands up
I think one of
or
the.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, with running hot and like uh VRcation, I guess, and then like you just have all these hand you have all these cards in your hand, and I guess you make one big run, but uh I don't know. Is game day is not still legal? It's just VRcation.
Yeah, game day was San, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately we're a little bit limited. I do think it's interesting. Like this is a nice I think the big thing to me is this is boom protection when you put it down. But it's not necessarily. It's not like. It's not actually. It's not end of the line protection. Because 2 end of the lines will still be 8 damage until you start charging this up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's enough. Is it? I don't know if it's like worth this, like for like stone ship. Is it better to like have the extra hand size or to have the extra uh art, like actual draw? But I think like in something, because I think like, saying that this is definitely a combo enabler, like I think Woo's gonna definitely be the big combo one. So that definitely, you know, that I think is gonna be the way uh you get the hand size, you do the woo things, and then, you do a big, I don't know, or I don't know. I think Tremolo definitely is going to be a big thing though, because that's like basically Yogg. So if you have that in Palangi, you can do some very nasty shenanigans.
Yeah, Tremolo, I think is definitely a shout out. Give me, it's not on NRDB, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to pull it up, but that's definitely worth a shout. And for those who missed that, let me just go slide that in. Great.
I think it's cool. You can like easily play this in any of the factions, right? Like this is
Right.
Shaper, Crim, and Anarch can play all these cybernetics and run this.
Yeah. No, I think this is like like I think at one influence, like suddenly this almost becomes just like a blast treat. You can splash everywhere against Boom. At two, you have to think about it a little bit, but there's payoffs now in every faction. Like if you're Crim, you can play this as Boom protection to also power up a Tremolo. In Shaper, you can. There's a bunch of reasons you might want the Hippocampic Mechanocytes. And Anarch, like especially Essa, is going to want a lot of plus hand size. And Exu calling out maybe worth it for Adam because T400 Memory Diamond is so bad. Because Adam players tend to just install that for the plus hand size, and this does that for 2 cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Essa definitely she definitely wants this, but it's like I don't know. It's like I think one of the problems with deck building with Essa is that how much of your deck do you dedicate to hand size versus actually uh, you know, playing Netrunner. So it's like how much is like mitigating the ability versus like winning the game.
Yeah. It's like, should you just plan to take 4 core, or like, I guess with the console, like 5 core damage and just say, you know what, that's 10 sabotages plus whatever I'm doing with the cards, and that should be enough. And like spending time on something like this is just like too slow and like wheel spinny rather than putting you forward.
Right. I think like instead of playing like I think that is also well, I don't know if it's better than T400 Memory Diamond because it is still 2 influence, but I think with uh with all the new cards and everything that there's at least like different options for Essa now, not just like, maybe you don't even have to play Marrow, but you can play this and, 1 or 2 T400 Memory Diamonds.
Yeah, and you could play a Keiko, the console that everyone always wants to run. Uh,
And I think I calculated it once. I think you can theoretically recur Chatushka like 18 times, like probably more than that, probably more now with the new Anarch events, but like that if you're able to dedicate more of your deck to Chatushka recursion, I think that is like an actual, it might not be the nicest or least NPE strategy, but I think there's a potential for a sabotagey noise type.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about that, and we'll move on to the other card probably in a minute, though. I also realize I should give Seb a little bit of time to chat about this too. But like, hey, at least this requires runs on centrals. Same with like finality. So like, it's hard to do the full noise of like I'm gonna do zero runs and just install viruses. We got to at least make successful runs on centrals to really make decks
Yeah, I mean
sing.
it's more like Fear the Masses than it is noise, but it's still like
Yeah.
trying to sabotage the like taking the corpse deck and throwing it in the garbage.
There's a good show in the chat too about if Thule ends up being like everywhere in the meta, this can be just good protection, just keep you from dying.
Yeah. Yeah, if Fools are all planning to do that Hypoxia end of the line deck, like this just dunks on their whole game plan, probably.
Yeah.
All right, should we talk about the card that probably everyone's most excited to go to?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this all day.
All right, so I should quickly shout out the flavor real quick. This mentions Ampere, and so here we are. We get the actual punchline here of what is Ampere. Ampere apparently is null signal games in like a couple of decades. But anyway, Cybernetics for anyone. It is a 45 infinite neutral corporation. And it says your deck cannot include more than one copy of any card. Your deck may include up to 2 different agenda cards from each corp faction. The flavor text is affordable, effective, and uncompromising. And this is an Emilio Rodriguez art. So
Yeah. I looked them up the other day, and they've done like 90% of all of the corp IDs, which I think is, great, amazing.
Yeah. And they're all like so good too.
Yeah. So I think the one unique thing that this ID does is you can play 8 3/2s. However, if you play 8 3/2s, that means your last 4 points have to be 2 neutral or 4 points worth of neutral agendas. So it's like, at like first glance, this is like, oh man, I can put all these agendas in here and, play one-offs of everything. But the truth is, you still only get 2 agendas from each faction. So, I don't think there's a faction that can play 8 3/2s. I think 7 is the most, but it's like, you can't play Atlas, Above the Law, and As If, unfortunately. But you can play 2 of those.
Yeah, I was trying to cycle through what all the ones are. Tomorrow's headline. But yeah. Yeah, so it's like it does seem like you've got a lot of options, but you are merger is not legal anymore, right?
No.
Yeah, that taken away from us too soon.
Right.
Some people, not me, would say.
Pointed out, if you did play this in Eternal, it is very, it's at a big disadvantage because you can still only play one-offs, but you're still paying the same amount of points for your point cards. So you only get one of each of them.
Yeah. Just to clear something up in chat, like you cannot include more than one neutral, so you're still limited to one hedge fund, like one off-world office, one global food initiative,
one Rashida.
Yeah.
Yeah. One spin doctor. It's just.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that the only option here is fast advance. I mean, you could do some fun things, but like, maybe if preemptive wasn't banned, you could theoretically do like a kill deck, but I think it's just very difficult with like one spin doctor and one genotyping.
Well, what about like a simulation reset or something, right? Like this could maybe give us some extra gas.
Yeah, I think you run this. Like you run sprint, you'll run moon pools, like you run all these like kind of recursion hand fixing cards, but
yeah,
I don't know if it's enough.
Yeah, I think attitude adjustment was another one I was looking at. But,
oh yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah. Or even like special report. I don't know if that's still legal. I don't know why that showed up when I was trying to build it. I don't think it's still legal. But
I think it might be. No, it's still legal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, special report's another one too. I guess people aren't playing these because it's like they're not that great. But it's like if you could only play one spin doctor, gotta have something else.
And then you just play all the tutors too, right? Like you gotta play Atlas, play Gaslight.
Right. Gaslight's good.
Do you play Malapert? Maybe. I don't know.
I think, yeah, maybe. I mean,
with fast. Oh no, go ahead.
With fast advance, it's like you can play, you can play Biotic, you can play Audacity, you can play, Bast Churbaga, you can play, Sand, calibration testing, like all of these cards that you couldn't fit in one deck because it's like, too much influence. But you only get it once. So it's like once you use that calibration testing, the runner doesn't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, it is certainly tricky.
Tenda combos.
Yeah, it is like this is always the thing where like that happens in draft all the time where you're like, oh, because I have this and this. Like the first thing I thought of, or not the first thing, but the thing shoot, I thought it was called Biofrost Array.
Bifrost Array? I don't think that's legal. Or
No,
maybe
it's not.
No.
Okay, yeah. So if you could Bifrost Array any non-HB agenda, it would be super sick. Right.
Yeah, like I once played a draft where I had Titan with like Beal and Project and Nisei Mark II and like all of the 2-1s and stuff. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's like this is basically a draft ID, but in draft you basically have an unlimited restriction on agendas. So
yeah.
This is a harder draft ID.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what other like there's not a lot of agendas that do stuff to other agendas, right?
I think Helium 3 deposit was the other one, but that's also not legal. Like you could use it to like make a 3-point Beal into a 4-point Beal.
Does Beal have power counters or agenda counters on it, I wonder?
Is it power counters? No, I think it's agenda counters. Never mind.
Yeah. Beal is unfortunately future-proof for power counters, though, as was mentioned yesterday, Isawak with Helium 3, if you somehow manage to make that work in a draft, would actually function.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting thing about this is what would the ice suite be? Because I think everybody's sort of thinking about, you basically play all the transactions and like one is like all the good neutral economy. But I think the ice suite is really interesting to think about because it's like, you only get one border control, you only get one, a non-C or whatever. Like once that's like done, it's done. So it's like, do you only include, I mean, I guess it's a mix of both like punishing ice and like good ETRs, but like do you play expensive ice at all? Like is that worth the risk because your econ is kind of middling anyway?
I was just about to say like, oh man, you know what's really nice cheap ice is the harmonics, and then I was like, wait, nope, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 4 of them, right?
Yeah, basically. So it doesn't actually work very well.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think, like you can play like the fun, like one of all the fun ice, like you can play one drafter, gatekeeper. I was looking at some of like the weird traps, like Sadaka. That's a funny trap. And like Chua. You don't have to worry about influence when it comes to ice, which I think is I just think that's the most fun because that's definitely going to be one of the things that it actually has going for it. Like, I think the 2 things that this ID has going for it is 8 3/2s and the element of surprise.
Yeah, like you just play against this, you have no idea what to look out for. Like you have to worry about everything, right? Like
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like usually if I'm against like Wayland or something, it's like, okay, there's probably an Afshar in HQ. Or if it's like, Jinteki, it's like, okay, it's some, cheap like anemone or like something, whatever. But here it's like, I don't know, it could be on HQ. It could be anything. Or it's like if you're against HB, it's like, oh, it's probably Drafter. But like, it could be yeah. I really like the idea of that.
I think that's actually a really nice point is like the game, like exactly how they're gonna win seems a little bit unclear, but like their path to get there, especially the ice, is going to be so difficult to ascertain. And like I feel like you can say like, oh yeah, I can do like Anoetic Void. I can do a Manic Arm potentially. Like, yeah, I can't reliably stack these, but I can put other stuff in too. Now I can also be running a one of like Zato, and I can run a one of Civic Grid. Like I can just stack all these weird high. Well, I guess they're not all high influence, but like high commitment things that are meant to be like, oh, you deal with one of these one way against this faction, and now it's like, oh no, I figure to deal with the Nana Civic Grid, the Zato Grid, Void, Manic Arm, all at once, and no other deck is going to be like trying to challenge me with one of those, without being able to know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, one of the things, like, as the runner, when I'm playing runner, I think I try to think about which breaker. I mean, I guess this is mostly against Jinteki. You always think about, okay, I have to install my killer first. Otherwise, this game is like going to be miserable. But like against this, it's like, well, do I need to install my killer? Or is it like, I have to have like whatever my AI breaker is? Because I have no idea what, you know, is what's in store for me. But I think
Yeah.
it's definitely, I don't know if it's even like a tier 1.5, but I think there's definitely a way. I don't know. Maybe like, better, smarter deck builders will figure something out. But just looking at people on GLC today, like trying to figure it out, it's like, yeah, it's just like, put all the transactions in and then like a bunch of random ice. I thought was actually really funny was seeing people like have different ideas than me. I'm like, oh, like that different people have different biases, like favorite ice. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of you or
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, I think every person is probably going to have their own spin on this because there's really no way to say, what is the best version of this deck.
So
Oh
I want to
yeah,
quickly
oh
give you a chance to shout. But quickly, I will say someone called out in the chat. Indian Union Stock Exchange would be sick in this ID
oh
because
yeah,
effectively every card would count as being not in faction. I believe, including
yeah,
neutral cards.
yep.
Though I'm not sure.
Well,
So,
I don't know, but yeah, no, that would. Oh man, but you only get one of them, but
but the
that is a
games where you
fun.
find
Right.
it.
Yeah, it's like I think that, yeah, like I said, with the ice specifically, it's hard to know, but it's definitely maybe you just do a bunch of like the on res effects and then just like, keep your opponent scared and then like one snare to like keep them off balance.
But yes,
But
no, that's the Seb. I want to give you some chances to talk about this as well because we've been kind of going off on
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I'm sort of lukewarm on it. Like, I feel like it's just a huge restriction for like where the biggest payoff is like you get to play all these high influence cards. But I haven't never in a DB search right now for high influence cards, and like I just don't see that many that I'm super excited to play.
Mhm.
Like, and I feel like I do think, yeah, probably Fast Advance is probably the best. Like like Biotic and Audacity being like the two like high influence cards that you can just throw in. But I don't know. I'm definitely excited to see what other people build with this. I don't know. I'm not the best deck builder, but I'm sure someone has like a galaxy brain ideas for this that are just gonna do some wild things.
yeah, just wanted to point one thing out that people are asking in the chat. Neutral is not a faction.
Yeah.
So you can include as many neutral agendas as you want, but you can only include one of each.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm going to we're gonna go and quickly look at NRDB here. So this is the list of all of the cards. It included IDs. I should probably find some way to filter that out. But I think this is C current, corpse side, influence greater than 3. So these are like the cards that you want to look at. It's like, oh yeah, Archangel is really good. It's hard to splash outside of NBN. Doesn't always fit with the NBN game plan.
Oh yeah,
There's
you can
like
play all. you can play all of the like encounterable access ice like Sapper and Chrysalis.
Yep.
I think is the other one. I feel like there's one more.
Sapper, Chrysalis. Did HB not get one? Herald. Oh, Herald.
Herald, yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's gonna be one of those ones that I'm like, that's a real card? But apparently it is.
Though, yeah.
Yeah, it's NBN.
I don't think HB has one.
Yeah, I don't think HB has one, but NBN gets two, which I think makes total sense.
Yeah. Well, Archangel isn't trashable, and you have to pay to use it. But yeah.
Does Lee Lockwell see play in this deck?
Ooh. Actually, it could maybe, right? I like definitely remember people looking at this for op as like a 2-cost target. But like you're not paying 4 influence in this to like do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could it's really hard to think about like asset spam here. I mean, it's like, but you know, do you just play a bunch of like weird random assets and then hope for the best?
Well, if you don't play any ice, you don't have to worry about not drawing your ice, right?
Yeah, that's true. Play a tropical ID.
I feel like there's gonna be stuff here. It's like, oh yeah, it's like maybe we can play like if you play Gaslight, Hard Hitting News, maybe you play Lily Lockwell, you play some other tagging stuff in NBN, then we have some tag payoffs in HB now, so you can cross faction those. Like,
yeah.
Maybe you can start building something that way.
I think just there's, I guess, in terms of like the kill slash grinder slash, you know, defensive agenda type thing, you could play both City Works Project and Obokata and Baloney. So you get one of each of those. And SDS, I guess. And like one GFI. I think that's like 18. But
yeah, you could grab some of the best 5/3s in the game and then just find 2 points somewhere else.
yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing you could do, just the low agenda deck and then play. I don't like, because I think that's the problem, is that you have access to all of these kill pieces, but not, not enough. There aren't enough pieces, for the corp right now.
Yeah, it's like punitive Counter-Strike is so sad. If Archive Memories wasn't on the ban list, this ID could really, I think, plausibly make a case for playing the all 5/3 stack, because
Right.
they could punitive archived punitive, but there's no way to get the punitive from archives back into your hand reliably in a single turn anymore.
Yeah.
Or Vitruvius. That's about it, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. Your whole game plan could be my one non 5/3 is Vitruvius. I have to score the Vitruvius with a counter, then I can punitive kill.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing that there aren't like a million different cards. I think the other thing I saw people talking about is like, 24/7 is a card that doesn't really have, I think potentially could unban 24/7 because you don't have breaking news, or I don't know, whatever other crazy things, or like Philotic. So like, is there like a tomorrow end of the line deck? But then, I mean, I guess it removes tag, so I don't know.
Oh yeah. Tomorrow's headline. Okay, yeah. Sorry, right. I lost you for just a second. So tomorrow's headline into end of the line. Yeah, that's like, maybe we can do that a little bit. So.
But that's assuming like 24/7 would be unbanned, which again, I don't think there's any thing that really, I mean, yeah, it's uninteractive, but you know, it's like, you know, yeah. I am definitely the kind of person who likes playing kill decks. And if there is a kill deck to be played with Ampere, I think I would play it. But I think it's really just a weird, janky, fast advanced ID.
It depends on like having a critical mass of cards that like do the same thing, right? So I mean, maybe you could do like a bunch of tagging things and like I don't know, psychographics and boom and end of the line, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it does seem like playing this fast advance or playing this for some kind of just like glacier, and you have we're gonna see what ice comes up off the top of my deck. Uh, seems like an okay way to go.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine there's definitely like somebody's gonna figure this out. Somebody's gonna figure out, you know, if you have this many fast advance pieces and then like this very specific suite of ice, maybe, there's a certain level of consistency. Cause like for me, whenever I'm deck building, I'm, this is gonna make me sound like such a tryhard, but I'm always big on ratios. So like when I'm like trying to count, I always like check, okay, so how many econ cards are in here? And it's like if it's less than 9, I know I'm doing something wrong. And it's like every time I was trying to build this, I'm like, there's not a lot of econ cards and that you can do one-offs. Which I
Yeah,
think is like, yeah.
it's like
Which is like
Rashida, hedge fund, uh, Regalith, probably. I think like,
And like
yeah,
like Hansei, government subsidy, all those. But it's
yeah.
still rough.
Yeah, that's still not really enough. So then it's like, okay, we're probably also gonna run a Maryland campaign. We're gonna run a Nico campaign, like
yeah. I
pad
think
tap
there's
planogram, like
there's
uh
at least like 2 very splashable econ cards per faction, but like that's still, including neutral, that's about 10 cards total. Um, RLC is actually another one. But it's still it's not enough, which I guess is good because it means that like, the way the meta shakes out that no one faction is sort of either dominating in like econ cards or, fast advance cards, but it's like for a neutral ID, there isn't that abundance, so it's like you have a limited, amount of options. Subliminal is a sad one because I think like with this deck, the runner's just gonna run every turn because you're not gonna have any ice you can rest.
yeah, unless you build like the most miserable, like I'm gonna build a janky, like I'm gonna have the Nancy here, I'm gonna have a Loki here, I'm gonna have a whatever over here. Um,
Yeah, too big to fail is a good
Yeah,
call.
Too big to fail is actually a really good shout as a card that's like usually prohibitive to trash, like four or to splash. I should say at 4 influence, but like probably does a lot of economic work. Um, yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I
I
think to
mean,
some extent, analyzing this ID for its ability to take home top competitive events seems like maybe now the card is 4. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think
that'll
that's
work.
that's okay too.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I think the funniest I think would be like an asset spam deck where you just play, especially with all these new weird things that the Parhelion spoilers just like you play this like weird IG type deck where like, the runner's looking for things but they don't even know what to look for. You got a cerebral here, you got the Reaper function somewhere else, you have the hand size thing. It's like, mind games, like a weird shell game type thing.
Are there even enough traps for that though? Right? Because you're just gonna have one of each of them, and then just I don't know.
Yeah, but there's like a lot of different traps now too. Like NBN,
Sure.
Jinteki, and HB all have at least one advance, and then all have one advanceable trap. Wayland has a reverse advanceable trap. I feel like Jinteki's got more than one advanceable trap as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's Gene Splicer, there's Urtica, I feel like there's one more. But yeah, or like play like False Flag. I think that's still around.
Let's see. I think False Flag. Yeah, False Flag's gonna be with us for a while. Oh, I was looking at False Flag because it's I think one of the worst cards in the best average pack in Netrunner. I think.
Yeah.
I was doing something for someone in GLC was like, I wonder what the best pack is, and so I went and did some. I went and crunched the numbers, and Kampala Ascendant is the highest average value pack.
Has
Actually,
False Flag.
it also not because it has False Flag,
Right.
but it has Zero, Hippo, Amina, Diversion, Pad Tap, Reclaim, Ingolo, MT, Malinzi, Market Forces, Surveyor, and High Profile Target, and then some other cards.
Yeah, no, that is oof,
Good pack, yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Good.
I actually, it's funny seeing it. I'm like, oh, maybe Ampere will be finally the better citizen program deck, somehow. Yeah.
I think so. I don't think so.
Probably not. Probably
No.
not. But
Yeah.
I feel like this faction is hurt a little bit by NBN just like not being the one to exploit this too much. But
Yeah.
Andre
you
shouting
play
out, yeah, playing all the
all
lockdowns.
Yeah, NAPD Cordon, Argus Crackdown. Yeah, Argus Crackdown could help with like the weird, Obokata / City Works deck. Really wish dedication ceremony was still around and you could do some really silly stuff.
I mean, if dedication ceremony was still legal, I would be doing very silly stuff in
Yeah.
op.
Yes,
I almost wonder if this card could have said like, you can build without worrying about rotation or ban lists, and like where you could go from there.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, because then you could play like AstroScript, Breaking News, Accelerated Beta Test, SSL. Oh yeah.
I think my sense is it's not going to be good in Eternal just because you can't play 3x of the busted cards. You only get 1x of all of the busted cards. But I would love to see someone to try to build an accelerated diagnostics combo list that only has one of all of the pieces.
Yeah.
I think that's just a fun. It seems like a fun challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like one of the great things about this is like it is like a deck building challenge. And like that, is this is like a puzzle of like, is there a way to make like a collage of agendas, ice operations, and potentially defensive upgrades that actually wins a game of Netrunner?
Yeah, actually, as I think about this, like one of the neat things about this is like I can make an Ampere list, and then if I show up, and I'm not going to like I'm not spoiling anything, but let's say hypothetically there's a runner identity that has something kind of similar to this, right? Like I think that's a reasonable guess, not guaranteed. I don't know, but like I might be able to show up and be like, hey, you know what? Instead of me playing my try hard deck against someone who's showing up to the standard meetup for the first time, we can play an Ampere versus Highlander runner, right? And that could be a fun way to like level the deck building playing field a bit, while also still giving people room for deck building expression, which I think is kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, it's I don't know if it's actually easier to build in startup because you actually have Cyberdeck Sandbox, which is like you could play that and Offworld, and then I think you could still play 8 3-2s. But yeah, it's interesting to also think about startup because it's like, is it better or, you know, since it is also like a limited ID in a limited format, you know? So that definitely would probably be fast advance. And Clot's not as strong because Simulchip's rotating, but I think, yeah, it's really fun to think about this ID.
Yeah, and it's like, I wonder you just put in like a bunch of like similar like game plans in and just kind of see what your get deck gives you. Like, just kind of play like an amorphous deck and just who knows?
Just heart of the cards that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if this is like a good deck building exercise, like for, I mean, yeah, it's like, could you do like an event that's just like a deck building challenge where everybody's on um Ampere and I don't know, whatever the neutral runner is, and then like see, because you would have like different decks from everybody. So it's like, that I think that would be an interesting experiment.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to see an event like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was asking about in GLC, and it's like someone Ginevra really nicely pointed out. Maybe that shouldn't be an NSG event, but it probably should be an event that someone hosts. So I might look into doing something like that, assuming we get the neutral runner is some kind of compatible format of a similar kind of deck building power or levels or things like that. So
Yeah. I mean, if I were to run that format, I would absolutely call it name after a very funny Netrunner DB joke, which is there was somebody made this like neutral HB deck and they called it Tell My Wife I Say Hello. It's a
okay, hold
Futurama
on.
reference.
I have to find it. You said it's neutral H. Tell my wife I say hello.
Yes. It's a Futurama reference, but yeah, somebody made like an ETF deck that's just all neutral cards.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna get this up. I had no idea. I actually this is something I have never seen before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And like all the comments are Futurama. Well, I love like trawling Netrunner DB and just like looking at people's like funny joke decks.
Oh my goodness, Will o' the Wisp. I'm gonna go on a very short tangent. I remember this card being spoiled and people, myself included, freaking out about this card. And it's just so amazing to see a card that people freaked out about and it just never showed up anywhere. In
Yeah.
a kind of amazing fashion.
I think there was some niche like Argus decks that might have ran it, but like one at most, not like any, or like a like weird Scorp decks.
Yeah.
Sub boost, yeah. Oh man.
Cool. Well, this is a great little callback to lore, and definitely something I'll keep in the back of my mind if we get a runner neutral ID that feels in keeping with Ampere. Then that seems like a fun tournament to run. So.
Yeah.
That said, I feel like we've I don't want to try and stretch everyone super thin about two cards tonight. So I guess I want to throw to you two if you've got any closing thoughts.
I am very excited for these new cards. I think they're like, the whole all the spoilers and it's been like super high powered and just like I said earlier, like this has probably been the most fun spoiler season just because like every card I've seen is like something that, I could see in a deck or that I could even see like C putting in my own deck. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about Parhelion.
Yeah, same. Like I have like 5 decks built already in RGB, just right waiting for Friday. Well, hopefully Friday.
Yeah, I
Very
mean, I've been trying this like Swift Sable for like the past like several months, and I'm like seeing cards of like, oh yes, this is what's gonna make the deck.
Yeah, actually, it's what are your okay? I said I was gonna end the stream, but now I'm really curious on what your thoughts on tunnel vision are, as someone who's been trying to play a lot of Sable.
I don't think it's good.
Okay.
The 2MU is really hard because my Sable deck, it's, you know, it's 3 breakers plus 2 Sesvi, and it's a prepaid like twinning deck. So yeah, it's like I've already like cut Almakua, so I don't know if you could fit in tunnel vision, because it's like if the numbers were a little better, but like the 2MU is difficult.
Yeah.
I love tunnel vision. One of my decks is a tunnel vision deck, and it's just literally the game plan is to just run the mark every turn, and I'll have Amakul installed and Chesvies and twinning and just go and just
Yeah.
ignore the remote. Well, actually, you can run the remote with Amakua if you have enough counters, but
Yeah, so I guess your rig can be like a tunnel vision, an Amakua, 2 Chesvies, and then
yeah, and twinning and then wake and plan. You're just hammering centrals. Oh, and
It seems-
Virtuoso gets you breaches and HQ at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you're doing like a very like limited AI focused deck, like if it's just like Almakua, boomerangs, maybe like or like a boat deck, I think it could work. But yeah, I mean, yeah, more power to people if they can figure out how to work it. I'm I wouldn't say, like I said, I am excited about every card, just like I don't think I would play Eternal Vision. Maybe in a different type of way.
Yeah, no. I wasn't trying to get you hyped on tunnel vision. I was just kind of curious because it's one of those cards that like I don't know exactly how I evaluate it, and so it's always interesting to hear other people's thoughts.
Yeah. I think it's just like limit less if you're playing a deck with fewer breakers or like more MU, it probably works better.
Yeah. And Seb, any final thoughts from you as we wrap up the stream?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm super excited too. Like I think all of the cards have been like really cool. Like yeah, that's about it.
Great. All right. Well, I want to thank you both again. It's been a lot of fun to chat about Ampere and then also hippocampic mechanocytes. I want to thank everyone in chat for coming by. It's always great to have you guys, or the collective y'all. And I will see everyone tomorrow. And then I've been told there will be cards that don't get revealed until release day. So I'll probably do a release day daily cast as well. So look forward to that. And I'll see y'all then. Thank you, everyone. And have a nice evening.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks.